Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In this video, I like to talk about Siris Ksana after buff DPS, new weapon comparison, re-evaluate how overpowered her DPS this time, will she have potential to power creep other top tier main DPS or not, and decide whether she is a must-pull operative or you can skip her. Also, should you use Discordant to replace her free-to-play weapon Scarabaei or not.
一つ一つの瞬間で新たな自分を作る
The buff Siris Chief is just a little bit, but enough to change her into a monster. The first buff is her standard skill. This time can also reduce her ultimate skill cooldown by 3 seconds. So if you center her screen in the second phase, not only she will gain 5 skill energy for each target hit and reset her standard skill cooldown, but she can also decrease her ultimate skill cooldown by 3 seconds. This buff is quite useful to reduce her shotgun usage due to her shooting DPS is lower than her standard skill DPS. So unlike before buff where in her skill rotation, you will at least need to use 3 times standard skill to accumulate 100 or 120 resilience, and shooting at least 3 times to fully reset her ultimate skill cooldown. With this buff, you can change her skill rotation to just use standard skill for 3 times to accumulate 100 or 120 resilience, and shoot at least 1 times is enough to refresh her ultimate skill cooldown. In summary, the way her standard skill can reduce her ultimate skill cooldown every time you center the screen, allow you to minimize the time required to shoot at the enemy. That can provide a small improvement to Siris Ksana DPS. And the second buff is for her signature weapon, Crown Flail. At tier 1 can provide 40x thermal damage from 36 before adjustment to 40x maximum, while at tier 2 can provide 80% thermal damage from 60% before adjustment to 80% after buff. This buff is pretty much forcing you to pull for her signature weapon. But how much difference will it make compared to the previous one? Here is the calculation. Here is the sustained DPS after buff become even more overpowered than the previous one. Due to her standard skill can also decrease the ultimate skill cooldown, can improve her DPS about 12% compared to the previous one. And due to her tier 1 and tier 2 signature weapon also got buffed, compared to the previous one, her DPS increased about 21% for tier 2 weapons and 17% for tier 1 weapons. Then the newest weapon comparison is about this much. Tier 2 Crown Flail is about 18% more higher than tier 1 Crown Flail. Tier 1 Crown Flail is almost 20% more higher than Scarabaei, and Tier 1 Crown Flail is almost 30% more higher than Tiny Grains. So the previous one is about 15%, while this time become 20%. Comparing to other top tier main DPS like Cherno and KATYA, Siris raw DPS is indeed like a walking monster, isn't it? But will this insanely overpowered DPS power creep all available main DPS and broke the game? The answer is no, not yet, because Siris DPS output almost 100% contributed by her skill damage that make her highly synergy with skill buffer support operative, for example Enya Exuvia. But due to her inability to fully utilize Enya Exuvia capabilities, that become a big problem for her overall team DPS. Here is the calculation when Siris team up with Enya Exuvia, by assuming that Siris didn't trigger Enya support skill attack mechanism at all. So Siris only got skill damage buff from floating device, Enya Dewa skill, and a little bit from Enya signature weapon. Also some attack percent buff from Areka squad. Then Siris DPS will only become this much. Still insane overpowered damage? Not really. If we compare her DPS and Cherno DPS after getting buffed by Enya, you can clearly see how far the difference is. As for now, she isn't gonna power creep any top tier DPS, unless If they introduce a new support operative in the future that can provide a skill damage buff, skill damage taken, and HP percent buff without require the main DPS to shoot, that is the type of support operative that will have a high synergy with Siris Ksana. So for now, she isn't gonna power creep anyone. Let's just say she is almost in par with other top tier main DPS. In summary, do you need to pull for her signature weapon this time? Maybe. It's quite worth to pull, considering Siris Ksana is quite powerful operative to invest. In case you're still confused either to pull for Siris Ksana or not before her banner gone, here is the reason to pull for Siris Ksana. First is she is a very overpowered raw DPS, so she can easily outperform other main DPS operative in co-op gameplay. When getting buffed, Siris DPS is quite high that almost in par with other top tier main DPS. She is a very flexible operative that can fight mobs and boss enemy without struggle, can deal with wide variety of boss. I have explained it in the previous video, feel free to check it out. Even though Siris is a shotgun DPS, she being highly skill dependent make her very easy to use. So if you have allergic to our shotgun mechanism that have slow reload speed and etc, you don't need to worry about all of that when using Siris Ksana, because all you need is just to spam her skill and shot once, then followed by ultimate skill. Have a very high mobility that can be very useful in semi-open world gameplay. From all of that point, we can conclude that pulling for her is really worth it. But if she is a must-pull meta operative, I don't think so. However, if you are a beginner player, she is indeed highly recommended operative to pull due to her flexibility. Or maybe you can go with KATYA Blue Bolt because KATYA is better. Just pull based on your playstyle or your favorite waifu. Siris is a skill dependent operative while KATYA is a shooting dependent operative. And the reason to skip her is anniversary is near. Anniversary waifu might be better. You are broke right now. As for Discordance, if you ever thought to replace Scarabaei with Discordance in order to spam ultimate skill more quickly, I don't think that is a good choice. Since using Discordance means you will be shooting a lot instead of using her standard skill. Meanwhile, Discordance shooting damage is very low compared to Tiny Grains. Siris ultimate skill damage will also become very low compared to Tiny Grains. Since both weapons can't provide HP stat, also Discordance attack percent is significantly lower than Tiny Grains. And you will have a big trouble accumulating the resilient charge due to Discordance can't trigger Siris standard skill neuronic upgrade. So you will be forced to use ultimate skill at a very low resilient charge that will make her ultimate skill damage reduce even worse. In the end, you will be forced to use her very low damage standard skill to charge her resilience in case you use Discordance. So even if your Siris able to spam ultimate skill more quickly when using Discordance, her DPS will be significantly dropped due to very low shooting damage, standard skill damage, and ultimate skill damage. So in case you are a free-to-play players, just cope with Scarabaei tier 5 instead of trying to make things worse by using Discordance tier 5. I think that's all for me. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.